It's 3:15, and that means it's time for
The Real Deal with Bill McNeil.
That's right. Welcome once again to The Real Deal with Bill McNeil. I'm your host, Bill McNeil, and you're probably wondering exactly what is the real deal today.
Hey, good question.
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes. We got some major strike talk going on in the Hollywood entertainment industry. Apparently, the International Alliance for Theatrical Stage Employees have actually voted overwhelmingly to approve the strike as they are continuing negotiations with the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers. Now, obviously, this is a turbulent time within television, motion pictures, and streaming. COVID-19 has obviously changed probably the entertainment industry forever. This as far as the way movies are being produced, being released. We've seen streaming platforms obviously become more important than ever. And I don't know, it's an interesting time to try these tactics as things are evolving. Streaming's actually really interesting. If you look at the companies that are heavily invested in streaming, we'll talk mostly like Netflix. If you look at their debt to like capital ratios, they're absolutely insane as far as debt compared to their actual capital, because streaming, it turns out people like binge watching. So you have to continuously put out tons of new content as people binge, and just, churn through your product. Thus, you have to have an enormous amount of shows, streaming shows in production at all times, and you always have to be on the lookout for maybe movies that have been produced that are ready, however much you can pay for them, kind of get them on the cheap. So you're just money is always going on and going out. Now, of course, you do have your subscriptions, which is bringing capital in, but you're constantly putting it out as well. So it's made a lot of these traditional like studios that are transitioning to more of a streaming heavily reliant like strategy, like your Disney Plus. We've got, what else we got out there? We've got, Amazon's obviously been in the Amazon Prime's been out there for quite a while. Apple TV's kind of getting into the mix. And then everybody else has their own streaming platforms now where they're all trying to kind of catch up with Netflix, Disney Plus, and Amazon. You got Peacock out there, Paramount, all that kind of stuff going on. So it is an interesting time. And on Monday, as I mentioned, the International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees, also known as IATSE, revealed that tens of thousands of members had voted to authorize a strike against the film and television industry. And this would be the first time in the 128-year history that the members have actually voted to allow a strike. And it was overwhelming. In fact, I believe 98% of them actually voted to authorize this type of threat in negotiations. This is what Matthew Loeb, the president of IATSE, had to say. The members have spoken loud and clear. This vote is about the quality of life as well as the health and safety of those who work in the film and television industry. Our people have basic human needs like time for meal breaks, adequate sleep, and a weekend. For those at the bottom of the pay scale, they deserve nothing less than a living wage. Very interesting stuff. We know that due to the changes that we've seen, everyone going more to these streaming type models, and the productions have had to go. Everything is constantly in production, and these people are the members of these unions are having to work a lot more. Like the hours and the amount of productions have gone up. Obviously, need to bring in more employees and more members to kind of fill these things. In the meantime, they're probably being worked to death. Let's just put it that way. Now, this vote for this authorization does not mean that a strike is imminent or a strike is even happening. It just means that the unions, when they go to negotiate, can use it as a negotiating tool to say, we have been authorized to strike if we do not feel like you're meeting our terms. When we say they are talking about the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers, AMPTP for short. And this is what they had to say on their behalf. When we began negotiations with the IATSE months ago, we discussed the economic realities and the challenges facing the entertainment industry as we work to recover from the economic fallout from the COVID-19 pandemic. In choosing to lead the bargaining table to seek a strike authorization vote, the IATSE leadership walked away from a generous, comprehensive package. And they had apparently authorized some more pay. They had given some concessions, but obviously they had not met all the requests of the IATSE. Now, this is specifically going to be impacting three different areas. Apparently there are a lot of contracts out there with different union authorizations and stuff like that. Some of them have expired, some of them have not. So specifically, the three that this would impact would be the basic agreement and area standards agreement, which expired on September 10th, and the videotape agreement, which apparently expired on September 30th. And this information comes from the Hollywood Reporter. Major film and TV shows from companies including CBS Studios, Columbia Pictures Industries, Warner Brothers Pictures, and Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer Pictures, among others, are produced under the basic and area standard agreements. The basic area agreement covers both West Coast and some national locals, and the area standard agreement generally covers workers employed in areas that are not New York and Los Angeles. And the basic agreement also covers production of projects for streamers like Netflix, Apple TV, Paramount Plus, and Disney Plus. Workers on the videotape agreement covered content like reality shows, game shows, and talk shows from companies like ABC, Cartoon Network, and others. So that would be a wide variety of entertainment that would be affected if these strikes do in fact come to pass. Now, there are other agreements out there, like certain companies like Lucasfilm, I guess, has another agreement that hasn't expired that would cover projects like we just mentioned there. So it gets a little bit complicated. There are three other agreements that would not be covered in this because the agreements are still in place. They have not expired. And those are the commercials agreement, obviously commercials, low budget agreement, basically films, I believe, that are being produced at under $15 million. I'm not sure if that includes TV shows. And then the pay TV agreement. And the union members on those wouldn't be going on strike. And the pay TV would be like productions for like HBO, stuff like that, Cinemax, those type of productions. So this is all very interesting. Obviously, we did see a major strike. Was that like 14 years ago now? 15? When the Writers Guild of America went on strike in 2007. Yes. And that completely altered entertainment as we know it today. Basically, all the writers went on strike, and we saw a much heavier reliance on reality entertainment. Obviously, that is still quite prevalent within entertainment and television as we know it today. We also saw much shorter seasons were implemented on that. We see that also in effect today. We even see like The Walking Dead will do an 8 episode first half season and then another 8 episodes after a break. Back in the day on a full season of a television show would have been like 24 episodes. If it was a sitcom, it might be even more than that. But we know that the amount of content you get in one season seems to have been decreased significantly, not across the board, but in a lot of places. It's certainly absolutely the rise of unscripted or reality television certainly took over. It was already coming in, but obviously that was a major factor in it becoming so prominent in today's television. You can't even watch Discovery Channel or History Channel. It's just all reality TV now. It's just it changed everything. Now, this is really bad timing, in my opinion, and I think a lot of people would probably agree with this. Now, certainly the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers mentioned it earlier that they're still recovering the pandemic, COVID-19 stuff, and we're certainly not still out of that. Things are happening all around the globe. It's a very fluid situation, and it has definitely altered film and television production and the way people are consuming entertainment. I don't ever think it's going to go back, obviously, to the way it was before. People are much more heavily reliant on streaming platforms, And people are much more willing to wait on big budget movies and things like that to watch them in the comforts of their own home. They're quite used to it at this point. That's why you're not going to see nearly as many of these. You're not going to see them take any chances on movies, let's put it that way, because there's only going to be so many that go out. And a lot of people will just wait until they can watch it in their home. There's another issue that's going on, and it really feels like it's going to be hard for the IATSE to really get a lot of concessions out of this because of the heavier reliance on streaming and how much it costs and how much debt it takes to actually run a successful streaming company. If you don't believe me, go look at Netflix's numbers. It's absolutely insane. It looks like they're completely upside down, but that's like the standard financial model on running these things because you have to put out so much content. But there's other considerations out there. The regular Joe Schmuckatelli like you and I, in a lot of cases, the quality of the films out there really don't compel you to make sure that you go out there and consume everything in theater. And a lot of times, the antagonistic nature of the relationship between Hollywood entertainment, whether it be directors, actors, even late night talk show hosts and normal people just living their lives every day, taking care of their families, is very antagonistic. It almost feels like a lot of the Hollywood actors and people that are in that scene that come from that culture downright despise their consumers. We've certainly seen that in comic books. I've talked about that. Obviously, I'm mostly a comic book channel, do cover pop culture and entertainment, but that certainly it's not isolated to comic books. It feels like it's coming from big film and television on down. And as that divide grows larger, like, am I supposed to feel bad for these guys? You go on strike. I don't really care. Do I need to see your movie in theater? For the most part, my assumption is that 85% of the people that are up there getting paid off of whatever I pay into a movie despise me anyways. Why? As this gets worse, more people are going to be less and less likely to go out there and want to support these films and these actors. Have they really they show their true colors and how much they really despise their customers and the people that really support them on the big screen. We've already seen it, in smaller, more isolated cases. Here in comic books, we've seen people fleeing, and not just because of the antagonistic nature of the comic book creators towards the customers, but the quality has also gone down there as comics and entertainment and television have gone more for a message first approach rather than entertainment first approach. And this has certainly been a long time coming, but it's so in your face nowadays. It's not even funny. It's not all that often that you see something and you don't feel like somebody's trying to influence you not to buy a Coke or go and buy an action figure or a movie poster. They're trying to influence you on the way that you believe and the way that you want to live your life and the morals that you're allowed to have and whether or not you're a good person. That stuff really weighs down on people and it gets grating after quite a while. So the movie industry, just like comic books, has been having to raise ticket prices, above inflation rates and stuff to keep up with the amount of people that aren't going to theaters anymore, just like comic books have. But it's a lot bigger industry. Plus, you have a worldwide economy on that, where you can go outside the U.S. and really make up for some of the box office failures. That's why you see, well, not failures, but failings in the box office. The income that you would have expected that's no longer there. Now, that's why you see a lot of the movie producers specifically pandering, is the word I would use, to the Chinese market, because that was like the largest growing cinematic market in the world, and the box office receipts were going up and up and up. And they only allow so many films outside of China to get played in theaters there. So you go out there, you pander to them, you put some content that's specifically aimed at the Chinese audience, kiss their ass essentially, and then they'll let your movie in there, and you can up your box office receipts. Certainly, that feels like it's been at the detriment to Western audiences who have typically been the big ticket buyers as far as the film industry. But things obviously have been changing a lot the last 5-10 years. So I don't know. It's an interesting time. I don't know that this is going to work out in their favor because there probably isn't a lot of extra money to go around. These studios have taken enormous losses. Now, I imagine they had a lot of insurance, but those insurance policies aren't going to pay probably for all of that. They're only secured for a certain amount of money. Plus, as you cash these things in, your insurance is going to go up. They're probably having to pay higher rates and things like that as these things are happening. Plus, there's so many more restrictions being put on the productions of these things as the pandemic has been in there, and they certainly cost more money, probably a lot more testing and stuff like that. So I'm normally in support of the worker, but I don't know that this is the right time. You don't get to choose when these agreements expire. Obviously, the 2 agreements expired, or the 3 agreements expired on September 10th and September 30th. Obviously, that's very recent. And now is the time that if you were going to renegotiate them and get some concessions, you'd have to do it now. It's just very unfortunate for the union, for the workers that are working on these productions, that this is when it happens, because they have the leverage that there's been the vote authorizing the strike, but they don't really have the leverage. And it's like, look, the movie industry is doing better than ever. The movie industry, is as on shaky ground as it's ever been. There's certainly more work going on as people are pouring money into these streaming services and trying to catch up with their Netflix, Amazon Prime, and Disney Plus, but they're also going into enormous amounts of debt to do it. So I don't think the economic realities are going to work out in their favor, and whatever economic concessions that they got initially, I don't see them getting a whole lot more. But I am not the lawyer for our other side. I could be wrong on this one, but it does feel like the timing is probably off. But let's be clear. This does not mean a strike is imminent. It only means a strike is authorized at the negotiating table as they try to get further financial concessions, as they renegotiate these 3 agreements, the basic agreement, area standard agreement, and the videotape agreement. There are 3 other agreements that are in place. Those will be expiring in 2022. So that won't happen for quite some time. Those won't need to be renegotiated. Perhaps the industry will be in a better place by then, and there will be some leeway for negotiations. But yeah, weird time. Don't see this happening with COVID and all the uncertainty and the changing models that are happening right now that are going to be much more reliant on debt to finance. And then the fact that Hollywood are literally pushing people away, saying, don't come and watch our movies. Do not invest in us as people because we hate you. It makes for a really uncertain time. And it's unfortunate for the workers. They probably don't deserve that.